Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, 4 Nerds by Nerds, hanging out with.
Ted,
How's a GM to handle his players not knowing that?
jump down the description below where you can sign up for Nerdarchy the newsletter, get weekly gaming tips, as well as learn how to game with us.
So, one of the fans sent in a suggestion or had a question, and that was from Luke. And basically, what he wants to know is what do you do when your players are facing something they haven't faced before, and there's certain circumstances, or as he puts it, a trick, to defeating that monster, and your players don't know, and as a DM, you just don't want to tell them? What do you do? In this example, he actually uses the troll.
The troll, you typically need fire, you need acid, and in previous editions it could be even worse because you could cut them apart and it would just grow new trolls. That's scary.
Yeah, you could be like the Johnny Appleseed of trolls. So here's the thing: what do? You actually, as a DM, it's not really your job to do anything. It's the player's job to figure it out. And sometimes it's just experimentation. Like you cut something, and you can describe how how ineffective the attack was any way you want, whether it's the weapon bounces off ineffectively, or it cuts but it doesn't seem to cut as deeply as it should.
Or, in this particular instance, you could have a situation where it's like, okay, your sword bites deeply, and as you pull away, you continue trading blows, and you notice that the wound you just struck is already starting to close.
Yeah, so you would do that, and that's it. Now from there you can go, well, what skills do you have? And if someone has a skill that's appropriate, you could allow a skill check to see if they recall any bit of lore about something like this.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can just go, well, you know what, they can always retreat. In the case of the troll, eventually they're gonna do enough damage, and they're gonna try things like hacking it apart. It's so it stops getting up, right? And eventually, and look, I've actually had this happen in a game when I was playing, and we just beat it and beat it and beat it and hacked it and slash it, and then we're like, all right, okay, we're exhausted. It's down now, it's not getting up, but then it starts healing again, no matter what you do, right? So at that point, like some player is probably going to be like, well, can we burn this thing away, like make it no more, turn it to ash, right? Like in the troll example, I think troll is one of the easier ones because I honestly feel like in the example of the regenerating monster, like once you've gotten it to a point where it's not getting back up again, I think, and well, immediately anyway, right?
Right.
You've done enough damage that's going to keep it down for at least a little bit. Someone's going to be like, all right, we need to do something. Can we turn it to ash? Yeah, we'll come back from that.
Right.
So there's like some trial and error there. And they could always just flee, or maybe they'll come up with something creative, like stuffing it in a bag of holding, pushing it over a cliff, or be like, all right, we're gonna tie a rope around the corpse and tie some rocks to it and throw it in the river, something.
You can always go for creative, and that's where you can literally leave it to your players. You can have it be that, all right, the players manage to beat down the regenerating thing, and it's going to regenerate. Well, are they going to stay next to the corpse? Do they like, oh, I'm going to short rest right here in full view of my kill? Or do you typically go off a little ways? Well, if the monster has already lost a fight, even if it puts itself together, it might not go after the same prey again. It might decide to go seek easier prey, and problem solved. All right, they beat the thing. They didn't completely kill it, but that's not the way the system has to work. Um,
Or it might literally go back after and start hunting them.
Well, yes,
trying to pick them off. Or
depending upon what you want to do as a DM. Now, in another case where you're just not being effective against it, you can't do enough damage because it's regenerating or because it's immune to particular types of weapons, well, then you need to inform them that your attacks are not being as effective, and accentuate how much damage the monster is doing to them versus what they're doing to it, and they're going to need to figure out that they need to flee. There's times that not every combat encounter is designed for the players to win. Now, in this particular case with Luke's troll, I don't know whether he had planned that encounter or whether that was a random situation. If it's a planned encounter, you should have your players have the right stuff to be able to handle it, or at least have the right skills to be able to call to mind what it is that they're going to need to be able to do to solve the problem. If it's a random encounter, then by all means, let it be random and allow it to see what happens. And hopefully they'll be smart enough to either figure out a solution, get away, hide, or come up with some kind of creative solution to defeat said monster or challenge or whatever.
Well, the other thing too is like you can kind of like fix this after the fact. So what I mean is, say they fight the troll and they defeat it, get away from it, whatever, but they're never actually able to kill it in this particular instance. And later they're in town and they're at a tavern and they're like telling the tale of this monster that would not die. And one of the old veterans that's sitting in the tavern starts telling a story like, oh, that's a troll, clearly, and then explains trolls to them and how they work and how you need acid or fire, and that bugger is probably still out there, just waiting for you guys. Probably has your smell stuck in his nostrils now. Or something like that. You can make it colorful. It doesn't have to, like you said, they don't have to win every encounter. Surviving sometimes is enough. And, later on you can kind of go in, fill in the blanks, or maybe they're going to be like, man, I want to know what that thing was, and, what we have to do next time, why we couldn't defeat it.
Yeah, it's really a teaching moment. And if you've got inexperienced players, they need to know why things weren't working. D&D has a lot of weird monsters, and that's before you even get into homebrew rules and house created stuff that could go even further down those type of trails. I've seen trolls that, well, fire hurts them just fine, but they still regenerate. You need to use lightning or you need to use cold. So you could go in any kind of iteration with these things, and there's monsters out there that follow suit to that. So if you're encountering that kind of stuff and you've got inexperienced players, you're going to need to in-game and sometimes out-of-game instruct as to how this world works and how crazy creatures that are out there. There's plenty of things that need magic items to actually hurt it. There's plenty of things that are resistant to normal weapons, or if you go with the lycanthropes, they've got they need to have silvered weapons to do proper damage to it. So there's plenty of things that you need to figure out the tactics for, specifically dealing with those.
And that being said too, like they might know some of the lore too. You can't always just assume they don't know anything, but
Right.
like some things, like kind of like your iconic monsters, they've probably heard of them.
Mm.
They may not have all the information, might have some of the information. Like if you're talking about demons and devils, they might vaguely know they're really tough, and that you might need like powerful magic items or something like that to overcome it, or people have probably heard of a vampire or a werewolf. The troll might be a little bit tougher depending on where they're from. Maybe if trolls populate their area they're from, and the townsfolk have had to deal with them, then there's a good possibility they've even heard of that. But if they're not indigenous to where the players are from, they may have never heard of it. They may not be piecing together the description, or they may have heard trolls described a different way. So there is all those things. So again, skill checks, they trial and error, after the fact. These are all ways that they can figure it out.
So, what do you guys think? How do you handle, teaching new players or inexperienced players about monsters with these odd qualities? There's a great place to talk about that, and it's in the description below. While you're down there, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
You can check us out over at nerdarchy.com.
So until next time,
Stay
stay
nerdy.
nerdy.